It started like any ordinary day for 16-year-old Maya, a bright, hard-working high schooler with big dreams. But everything changed when a routine walk home turned into a nightmare. A local cop, known for his unfair treatment of people in the community, pulled her over for no reason other than the color of her skin. What followed was a shocking display of prejudice that left Maya shaken and her family outraged. But what this officer didn't know was that Maya's father wasn't just anyone. He was a respected judge, a man who believed in justice above all else. When Maya came home, her father saw the fear in her eyes and knew something had to be done. As the truth unraveled, the stage was set for a courtroom showdown where justice and accountability were put to the test. You won't believe how this story ends. Maya's father, Judge Carter, was a man who believed in fairness and dignity for all. Known in the community for his firm but compassionate rulings, he had spent years standing up for the rights of those who couldn't defend themselves. But when Maya told him about the officer's hostile behavior, his harsh tone, the baseless accusations, and the way he seemed to target her without cause, Judge Carter's heart broke. She described feeling powerless, scared, and humiliated. As he listened, his usual calm demeanor turned into quiet determination. He started digging into the officer's record and found a troubling pattern of complaints from others in the community. It became clear that this wasn't just an isolated incident, it was part of a larger problem. But bringing justice wouldn't be easy. Judge Carter knew confronting this would challenge not only the officer but the entire system that allowed this behavior to continue. Judge Carter's investigation revealed more than he expected. The officer, Officer Grant, had been the subject of numerous complaints, yet he remained on the force. Reports of racial profiling, unnecessary stops, and verbal harassment painted a disturbing picture. Maya's experience wasn't unique. It was part of a pattern that had gone unchecked for years. Determined to hold Grant accountable, Judge Carter reached out to members of the community. Slowly, others began to share their stories. Mothers spoke of their sons being stopped for no reason. A local business owner described an encounter where Grant had threatened him over a simple misunderstanding. Each story added fuel to Judge Carter's determination, but it also revealed the uphill battle he faced. Meanwhile, Officer Grant seemed unfazed. To him, this was just another complaint that would go nowhere. But he underestimated the resolve of a father determined to protect his daughter and a community ready for change. As the case gained momentum, Judge Carter knew it was time to take things further. He filed a formal complaint with the Police Oversight Board, backed by testimonies from community members who had experienced similar incidents. Each testimony added weight to the growing pressure on the department, but it also painted a troubling picture of a system that had failed to hold its officers accountable. Word of the case spread, and the community rallied behind the Carters. Protests began to form outside the precinct, demanding transparency and justice. Maya, though still shaken, found herself becoming a symbol of strength for others. She spoke at a town hall meeting, sharing her story and urging others to fight for change. Inside the courtroom, tensions were high as the Oversight Board announced an official inquiry into Officer Grant's actions. But behind closed doors, whispers of intimidation and retaliation began to surface. The stakes had never been higher, and the truth was about to be tested like never before. Just as the inquiry into Officer Grant's actions began gaining traction, an unexpected twist threw everything into chaos. A key witness, a local shopkeeper who had stepped forward with damning evidence against Grant, suddenly recanted his testimony. He claimed he had misremembered the events, but the fear in his eyes told a different story. Judge Carter suspected someone was pulling strings behind the scenes to silence those brave enough to speak out. The timing couldn't have been worse. The department's leadership announced that they would be conducting their own internal investigation, raising concerns about transparency. Behind closed doors, whispers of cover-ups and backroom deals circulated, leaving the community questioning whether the truth would ever come out. Meanwhile, Maya received an anonymous threat urging her to drop the case. The message was clear: stop digging or face the consequences. But instead of backing down, it only strengthened her father's resolve to expose the system's corruption. The fight for justice had just become far more dangerous. The courtroom was packed as the inquiry into Officer Grant reached its breaking point. Judge Carter had spent sleepless nights preparing, determined to expose the truth. As evidence piled up, including video footage from a bystander and accounts from multiple victims, Grant's once confident demeanor began to crumble. It was clear his actions weren't isolated. They were part of a pattern rooted in abuse of power and prejudice. But just as victory seemed within reach, the defense team unveiled a shocking twist. They presented fabricated evidence suggesting that Maya had been involved in suspicious activity the day of the incident. Gasps filled the room, and for a moment, doubt crept in. However, Judge Carter remained composed. He knew this was an attempt to discredit his daughter and shift the focus away from Grant. In a dramatic turn, a whistleblower from within the department came forward. They exposed not only the attempts to smear Maya, but also a history of ignored complaints against Grant and others like him. The room fell silent as the whistleblower handed over irrefutable evidence that confirmed years of corruption. The final ruling was swift and decisive. Officer Grant was dismissed and faced charges for his misconduct, and the department launched an independent audit to address its failings. The Carters had won, but the victory wasn't just theirs. It belonged to the entire community. Yet as they walked out of the courtroom, Judge Carter caught a glimpse of someone in the crowd, watching them with a knowing smirk. It was a subtle reminder that while one battle was over, the fight for justice was far from finished. As the dust settled, Maya and her family returned home, relieved but changed. The courtroom victory had been a powerful step forward, but it came with a deeper understanding of how much work still lay ahead. For Maya, the experience was a turning point. What had started as a moment of fear became a spark for something greater. Her voice had made a difference, and she was determined to keep using it. Judge Carter, though proud of the outcome, knew the battle for justice wasn't just about one case. He began working with local leaders to push for real reforms within the police department, ensuring that accountability became more than just a promise. The community, too, found strength in their unity. The fight against injustice had brought them closer, showing the power of standing together. Though the road ahead was long, they all knew one thing: change had finally begun.